I sold my soul to the devil, and the price was cheap. Ayo, it's cold on this level, cause it's twice as deep. Words from Earl Simmons, aka DMX, born December 18th, 1970, and his song Let Me Fly, off his debut album It's Dark and Hell is Hot, released in 1998. DMX had many songs speaking about the afterlife and wanting to die, and even giving his most prized possession, his soul, in order to touch as many as he could through his voice. He dwelled in this realm of two different personalities, which he credits to being bipolar, and struggled throughout his life with which one to let take the lead.
I did my best too, as I could, as I should. Knock on wood, then I'm hood, then I'm good, cause he knows my heart. And what grows from the start, glows in the dark.
Beyond that, X was a creative genius when he was still creating. Musician, actor, pastor, speaker. He did a lot with that voice and personality he prayed to his gods for, and no question touched the majority of the world through sound. Aside from that, he was also given the charismatic intangibles to connect with the masses through being in the perfect era for his gritty, masculine skill set and down-to-earth soul that you could feel in every lyric he ever spoke, even if it was requesting his wants from the dark world. The other side of him struggled to gain power over his darker counterpart, but was equally as connective. While he prayed for worldly things that he thought could only be delivered by the demons in his head, he longed for God's blessings, protection, understanding, and forgiveness for him to even be in a situation where he needed to ask a power outside of the Heavenly Father. Whichever side won those battles, both gave him everything he ever wanted, beginning in the late 90s and lasting to about 2006, where he was the top MC of his era and had 5 straight albums debut at #1 and all went platinum or multi. His shows were that of a rock star and the devout following that showed up just to feel his energy. Girls, boys, ladies, men, fathers, mothers, black, white, Asian, all followed and were glued to his music during his rise. On the big screen, DMX was as natural as they came, and had he went that direction with a clear focus and clean mind, he could have been one of the greatest actors to ever live, most certainly the best black actor. He was that natural and likable on screens. Was this God's gift? The devil? Along with that blessing, he was also given a mind that when something makes him feel good, he abuses it, focuses on it, and makes it a part of who he is. Maybe that's why he was so good at anything. It's also why addiction, just as much as music and entertainment, are synonymous when his name is mentioned. Addiction to drugs took away his following as they waited patiently for him to get clean and entertain them again like he once did. But that would never happen after 2006. The deal was, I give you the world. Enjoy it, because one day I'ma need that back. You'll have to live with what was and what could have been. You'll be seen as sad and unclean. You won't escape those demons you balance me with, and you won't escape that addictive personality that helps structure you. That's what I offer.
Take it or leave it.
He took the deal, and now this is where we're at. A sad story of an entertainer that once had it all and lost it. Now the world remembers him as a guy who could've, would've, or should've been, but his growth was stunted. It's your boy JC Stunted Growth. Get it, man.
Yo, moves is made, niggas is paid. That's just how it is. When my time is up, I'ma be out, but I'ma try to live. I mean, day by day, ain't nothing sweet about it. Act like you don't know what I'm saying? You read about it. Built for war, like an armadillo. Smother your ass, two through the pillow. Cause my shit is brilliant. Manic depressive and my head hurts. No, give me your dough and your hoe in here. Take these folk, hot things, I got things that make niggas spin. Put niggas in the wind, where you never see niggas again. I bless a nigga with stitches, but thin tight. And a straight razor will put pinstripes across your windpipe.
Earl Simmons was born in Baltimore, Maryland, although some suggest Mount Vernon, New York, and moved to school street projects in Yonkers, New York at a young age. He was raised as a Jehovah's Witness, which is where he cultivated his religious beliefs, learned to fear and pray to God, and also that there was a higher power that he could count on and that wouldn't leave him like his father and many more important people did. His environment was a place of poverty, struggles, and streets he ran night and day like the stray dogs he developed a connection with, seeing them as similar to him. If only someone just saw them for what they were. In the 70s and 80s, the use of drugs like cocaine, crack, and heroin was running through the streets as the new cool drugs everyone was doing. X would be hooked at just 14. He developed a love for robbing, mainly street dealers whom he'd wait to make a day's earning, then strong-arm it from them. He spent most of his adolescence in and out of juvenile detention and looked like he was losing his future. In actuality, he was gaining experience, street cred, and hunger to change his way of life that turned him into one of the greatest rappers of all time. He was allegedly abused by his mother and boyfriends and even sent to a boys' home because he was so disruptive. There is where he developed a love for beatboxing, rapping, and playing instruments. One in particular, the Oberheim DMX drum machine, where he got his name, later to be translated Darkman X or Dogman X. Stunt number 1, guidance and direction.
I spit or whatever, and he was like, his voice is too rough, he's not marketable. Didn't like it, but I had to respect it.
He fucked up. Let's make some noise from Puff fucking up.
To be clear, this story is not to say that DMX didn't have a tremendous career and life, but to suggest that the ending of his career could have lasted longer and reached heights way beyond where it left off, hence the meaning of stunted growth. DMX was supposed to be greater than he was, and one of the reasons it didn't turn out that way was because he didn't have the guidance and direction to help navigate. He stumbled into his opportunities and made the best of them, which is the single difference between those who make it and the ones that don't. Returning to Yonkers from the boys' home, he met a local rapper called Reddy Ron that took a liking to DMX and helped him cultivate his music. X would go to prison around that time, and there he decided to take rap more seriously. He put together his first demos and was eventually signed to Rough House Records under Columbia, but released after his first song, Born Loser, wasn't well received. He continued to build relationships with local rappers like Jay-Z, The Lox, and LL Cool J, who featured X, creating his first real buzz. In February 1998, after signing with Def Jam, he released his first album, It's Dark and Hell is Hot, that went #1 on Billboard and sold over 5 million copies. It solidified DMX in hip-hop as he brought a sound never heard before and wouldn't be recreated. He went on to drop a second album later that year, Flesh of My Flesh, Blood of My Blood, that also went #1. Something he'd do 5 straight times, becoming the only hip-hop artist to do so at the time. But during his meteoric rise, X was still in the streets and acquiring charges at the same pace his music was received. He was in and out of prison, being arrested for petty charges where he'd served 15 days, and major ones he'd be lucky not to serve substantial time for. During this time, he had no one he respected enough to tell him of the mistakes he was making and help him transition from the streets and curb his newfound drug use. From 2000 to 2005, he was in and out of prison and had extensive legal issues that seemed to be just as a part of him as music. Had he had the right upbringing and a father that could warn him of the street trappings and a mother that nurtured and protected her young son in his times of development, who knows the things he could have avoided, one of those being his biggest struggle. Stunt number 2, addiction.
And where are we at with drugs and alcohol?
What do you mean? You need some? No, man.
You say clean, no weed, no drinking, nothing.
Nothing.
Why?
The most prominent and well-known stunt in DMX's growth was his long battle with being addicted to drugs. Something that began with drinking and smoking marijuana and became a lot more serious at the age of just 14 when he smoked a crack cocaine-laced joint and became addicted. This took away his focus on music and acting and eventually caused him to lose his fan base. If you're familiar with crack cocaine, the effects make you feel zoned in, focused if you're moving around, but ultra relaxed if you're not. It also wears off really fast, leaving you chasing that high. This leads to you not caring about anything else and doing anything in order to secure the drug. It's amazing DMX even got as far as he did, beginning the use of this drug so early. But like mentioned, when moving around, it could feel as if 24 hours of work can be done in 5 minutes. And that's how he did it. He worked. He moved fast and he got the work done. As much as we don't want it to be, crack cocaine helped him along this way. It also has a crash point where most never return from. It changes your appearance, ability to grasp things that you once could, attention span, and the ability to convey your messages like you want to. After his 5th album in 4 years, this is what happened to DMX. He lost the ability to convey his messages. He lost the focus on where the sound of music was going. He even took more time off than he usually did, proclaiming that Grand Champ was his final album. Along with addiction, X also had legal issues that followed his entire journey, mostly stemming from the result of drug use or child support for his more than 15 kids in and out of wedlock. He'd be dragged in and out of courts for child support and being sued for things like defamation by the mothers of some of his children. This, I think, made his use of drugs skyrocket to the point music was no longer a focus. Stunt number 3, new fans, new sound. The final stunt in DMX's career is because the sound of music would eventually change, and the fans he developed over the years grew tired of the same old story from him. Drugs, arrest, and prison time. More drugs, rehab, rinse, and repeat. These fans also grew older and wanted different artists. The sound when DMX was hot in the late 90s, early 2000s was gritty, masculine, hardcore, tough, baggy jeans and Timberland boots, and being as manly as they come. Perfect for X. But in or around 2011, that all changed into being cool, pretty, popping bottles, and a little more digestible for the mainstream. Having not released a solo album since 2006, DMX released his 7th album, Undisputed, that peaked at 19 on the charts and was his first not to go platinum. In the 6-year span, X was in and out of prison, battling his addiction and baby mothers, and the industry changed along with X himself. His music no longer represented the feel of what was going on in the streets, and he was no longer seen as in the right state of mind as well. Fans didn't want to follow that. His prison and legal issues continued, last released from prison in 2019 for tax fraud, for which he served almost a year and had to pay over $2 million to the government.
Catch me if you can. And I'm in that truck, I hit the lights and, throw the siren or whatever, and they get out the way. Cut them off, jump out the car, like, yo, all right, I might have asked for his license.
And that was the fall for DMX, trending as fast as his music career was, but lasting a lot longer. To this day, he's seen as having missed so many opportunities for the reasons above, and as a guy that made a lot and lost even more in his life. Nowadays, he's still trying to find himself as a musician and entertainer instead of being able to sit back and run a business or eat comfortably off music like guys he came up with, Jay-Z and LL Cool J. All in all, X was and is a legend in my book that changed music and was one of the best you will ever see do it, whether in the booth, on stage, or on the big screen. But for these reasons, his growth was Stunted. It's your boy JC Stunted Growth, and I'm out.
The objective is to keep you blind. So along with the handcuffs on your arms, they got shackles on your mind. Seek and you shall find, accepting failure is the only crime. Fall down 8 times, get up 9, nigga.
The dog!